So the server slam just ended, and there's one thing that I really wanted to address, and that is a lot of your comments as well as a lot of the posts out there talking about after server slam. If you guys were not tracking the community, when the server slam began, the community was full of people complaining, at least those were the loud voices, due to some of, well, pretty much all of the different nerfs. People were not happy about the legendary drops. People were not happy about the necromancer changes. People were not happy about, in general, the changes made to the classes. I personally found them to be more enjoyable. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what happened and whether or not that was a select portion of the community. And it looks like it was. So this video I put out yesterday about the final review, basically to sum up this review, I think the game's at an 8.5 out of 10. Me personally, my enjoyment went up this last server slam due to the game feeling a little bit more difficult, and I personally prefer that. And basically, this entire video, there was a decent portion of dislikes because people disagreed with me, and that's totally fair. But the comments are, generally speaking, very, very positive about the game. Have to say, it's been a long time since I played a beta for multiple weekends. Can't wait for launch. I think the Druid and Barb will be much stronger because they did do a lot of buffs to the Druid and Barb, which is very, very good. Crazy good game. Diablo 2 was my favorite game. Diablo 4 was much fun as the rest through the acts. It has been with Act 1 in the latest beta, then it'll be moved to the top of my list. The game is awesome. Have to disagree with the Barb, but had a blast playing Weekend. It's just been positive comment after positive comment. And this is really, really interesting to me because what this means is either A, the major criticism was that the Necromancer was too, or the skeleton specifically for the Necromancer was too weak. And if that's the case, well, props to the developers because they fixed that almost immediately. And I'll talk about this just in a bit. But on top of that, that also means that potentially we had a lot of very loud voices within the community. Now, for those that weren't monitoring Reddit or the Twitter or comments, etc., I made a post about the first impressions and how I said the changes were really good. One of the biggest criticisms that people had was the Necromancer felt terrible, and also the legendary drops felt terrible, and also in general, they liked the previous iteration of Diablo 4 better. If you look at the Reddit today and you go around and look at some comments, the posts are extremely positive. Diablo 4 devs knocked it out of the park. I'm refunding other purchases so I can buy this game. I got clickbaited by that one, guys. Don't worry. Is it me, or is this potion system the best it ever was? Ashava is perfect. Isn't half the fun in the difficulty. The loot brought back the memories of D2. Please keep the drop rates. This is an appreciation post for Diablo 4. In case the devs haven't seen enough of these, outstanding job. Stop complaining about Ashava, the game is fine. It's literally post after post after post, and this makes me think that the people that didn't like the new version of Diablo 4, they rolled up, started playing Diablo 4, and immediately went to Reddit to complain. And then anyone that was actually playing and enjoying Diablo 4 were too busy playing and enjoying Diablo 4 to come on Reddit or to go on comment section, etc. I know that was me personally. I didn't really bother going around and checking all the different things. Obviously, I did make videos, so I was in the loop about things, but me personally, I don't personally care enough to go through reading posts or commenting. I just make my videos. So this is pretty funny, and I think that a lot of the posts here I want to talk a bit about because they do reflect a lot of my thoughts here. And the first one is going to be this post about the difficulty. And a few things in this one. Basically, they go on to say that Diablo 3 was far too easy, and they played the server slam, and they had felt that you had to make certain decisions to stay alive, and you weren't just one-shotting bosses. And this is a very, very, very interesting thing because they mentioned playing Sorcerer in Diablo 3. So assuming they played Sorcerer in Diablo 4, one of the key skills that got nerfed was Chain Lightning and Hydra. Chain Lightning got a pretty massive damage decrease, and Hydra got a 60% damage decrease. And yet both those skills, after playing the Sorcerer, still felt really good. Chain Lightning specifically still felt like the strongest boss DPS skill in terms of just straight up single target. If there's no other people around, Chain Lightning still did the most damage in terms of a core skill. Hydra still does more damage per mana cost than almost any core skill in the game, assuming you're getting the full duration on it. So these skills still felt good, which goes to show you how strong Sorcerer was before, considering it's a 60% DPS nerf for the Hydra. And so finding that the boss fights were a lot easier and I didn't just roll up and one-shot them as the Sorcerer was far better in my experience. It was a much more enjoyable experience. Granted, as someone who wants to level up and get the experience out and make videos for you all, it was slower for sure, but that necessarily wasn't a bad thing. Me personally, as I've said, I like the higher difficulty. Now, for those of you that played the previous iterations of Diablo 4, one of the biggest reasons why the game felt more difficult and very much more engaging, in my opinion, was that the legendary drops were massively decreased from the previous betas. It looks to be around a 300% increase is what we were getting beforehand, and now we are at normal drops, which means that at level 20, which is when we got to max level, I didn't have a single legendary item. In fact, I didn't get my first legendary until about 6 hours into the game. And obviously the earlier levels, you don't really drop any legendaries. Even in the previous versions, it took me to about level 12 or so to get my first legendary, unless I got a treasure goblin. So the first hour or two of gameplay, you weren't getting legendaries anyways. But as we got to like level 13, I was getting a legendary about every level in the previous beta. So I know they said 300%, but part of me thinks that it was even more increased. And by the time I ended the beta, which had about 13 hours of rogue gameplay, maybe more than that, I'm not 100% sure at this point, I got 4 or 5 legendaries total on my rogue. And 4 of those were from Ashava. So I didn't get another legendary drop from like monsters in the game entirely. Keep in mind that I didn't do any of the core dragon farming. I didn't spend time farming. I was just interested in playing and seeing how the game would be, because we're not going to be doing corpse farming or chest farming at level 20. It's just not going to happen in the live game. So I didn't bother doing it. And in that case, this really did feel like each legendary was massively important. And this post here, the new Diablo 4 did not feel like Diablo 3 at all, which was crazy. And they say they felt like Diablo 2. Now, I didn't play a ton of Diablo 2 myself, so I don't know if I can relate a ton, but they said they didn't find a single legendary for a 15-hour entire day of playing, and then Core Dragon ruined the vibe. Well, there you go. I did not do any of that, but no one's going to be doing this in the live game, so this doesn't really matter too much. And those small rare upgrades and the legendary drops actually felt rewarding. This is huge. So I personally, when I was playing in the previous betas, any legendary I dropped, I was like, oh, new legendary, salvage, or new legendary, sell. I didn't really care too much because we got so many of them. And even the rare items, I was like, oh, well, I mean, you know, it is what it is. I'm not really getting any upgrades. But in this iteration, it was absolutely true. Even yellows were hard to come by. And the second point they made is that the game was way harder and slower paced due to this. Absolutely. And I think this is a really nice feeling for Diablo 4. I will say that this is a lot less casual oriented, meaning it's not more arcade style like Diablo 3 was, where you're getting legendaries a lot more often and you're just running through the game pretty simply. But I personally really enjoy this. And one thing I want to note, because of the criticisms that people have made, there's 2 posts here that I want to note. A lot of people complain about the Necromancer, and a lot of people were a little wary about the difficulty and the new changes to legendary drops. But I will say that if there's a mass reaction to these things, and these are just my opinions in the video at the end of the day, if you guys disagree, like a lot of you disagree with how the Necromancer summoning felt. I personally find that the problems with the summons weren't actually the HP, at least from what I've played of it. It was more of the fact that summoning builds don't really have much support in Diablo 4. And the way the skill system's broken down, summons are kind of screwed over in general. And yet, the devs actually made a hotfix for the Necromancer summoners. Now, I've played before and after the summon changes, and they did feel a lot tankier. And yet, those changes got fixed immediately, like within hours of people complaining. And it's pretty crazy because I think the devs deserve a ton of respect and I guess you could say praise due to this. They've done an outstanding job, 100%. This person says they love the difficulty, love the drop level, love the class balance, love the no pay to win policy, and that is 100% true. They made a post basically explaining that if there was a pay to win thing edge case, then they would try to address it as soon as possible because it's not the intention of Diablo 4. So overall, they've just done an amazing job trying to listen to feedback and doing things that we wish to see. And I think this is a huge deal. I said on my post for the Necromancer how I felt like the Necromancer was totally fine, that despite my opinion, the devs deserve praise for the fact that they are continuously listening to feedback. That, regardless of anything, is super important. In general, I do think that there's a balance, but I think that they've kind of mastered that balance so far. And one thing, for example, one of the top voted posts right now is gems shouldn't take up slots in the inventory. However, if you guys remember a while back at the previous beta, they actually addressed how they're going to make a gem inventory in the live game is what they're planning to do. So things like this, for example, they're already addressing, which is absolutely crazy to me. So overall, I wanted to just make this post, make this video to talk about the beta and how we are shaping up for the future and how the community opinion has changed from literally the beginning of the beta to the end, at least in terms of what we can see. My thoughts are a lot of the negative community was very loud at the beginning because all the positive community was just playing the beta. We were just playing the game, guys, and we got blasted by people who didn't want to play the game and had time to spend on Reddit. For those of you like me, I literally was playing. I launched the game at 12 or 1 a.m. my time, or 1 p.m. my time is when the game started. I played until about 9 p.m., took a break, came back at like 11 p.m., continued to play up until like 5 a.m. in the morning when I was putting out videos for you all. And I just played like that for every single day until Sunday, in which I took a little bit of a break for Mother's Day. And I just enjoyed the game and I cannot wait. One thing that I'm really annoyed about for each beta though, is that I could only do Act 1. I was teased the entire time, man. I was just waiting to get in more of the game, and I cannot wait for the live game. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Very curious to hear what you have to say, and whether or not you felt the changes were really good, and whether or not you felt like the devs are doing a good job. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.